Hi guys! So I'm going to record a screencast of the lesson that you're going to be focusing on today in class. I'm sorry that I'm not there to do this with you in person. I miss you guys and I can't wait to come back and see you. But today we're going to be focusing on how to move from a general topic for your editorial to developing a controversial question that's going to narrow your focus on that particular topic. So let's say, for example, I'm going to write an editorial on the topic of nutrition. Well, I can't just write an editorial saying nutrition is important or people need to eat more healthfully. Pretty much everybody knows nutrition is important, even if they don't eat well themselves. I'm going to have to find a controversial question about the topic of nutrition that I can address in my editorial. So I did a little bit of thinking, and here are a couple possible questions regarding nutrition that I came up with. Should the cafe serve more nutritious lunches? Should students be taught about nutrition in school every year? Should that be something that we require of kids every single year? Another possible topic or question would be, should junk food be taxed? You know, we read some editorials about should is it okay for a city to ban extra large soft drinks and that kind of thing? So it was kind of inspired from that. Another possible question that I think would be pretty controversial is, should nutrition classes be mandatory for parents? I'm sure that a lot of parents would have some strong opinions about that one. And finally, should junk food be sold on campus? You might not think there's many pieces of junk food available on campus. You can't buy pop and chips and soda and all that stuff, but there are a lot of things that are pretty high in calories and sugar, and should we even be allowed to sell that stuff on campus? So those are just a couple ideas that I came up with that are more specific on the topic of nutrition that I could use to address my editorial. So I want to know what you guys think. Why don't you take a minute now and pause the video and talk to each other. What are some other focus questions that I could use for an editorial on the general topic of nutrition? What's a controversial question that I could come up with for my editorial around the topic of nutrition? When you're done talking to each other, unpause the video and move on. Okay, so you come back and let's see what you guys came up with. Maybe you came up with some questions like this. Should fast food restaurants offer healthier options, or should the government subsidize the cost of healthy foods? If you don't know what subsidize means, look it up. Should the government pay money toward healthy foods, maybe let's say farmers who are selling vegetables, and should they give more money to those farmers, and the farmers can sell those vegetables for a cheaper cost at the market? Is that something that should be done to encourage people to buy healthy foods? Those would also be possible controversial questions. Here are some questions, though, that won't work, and I don't know if you came up with anything like this in your group discussions, but questions like, what kinds of food are good for you, or which restaurant in Mahdi has the healthiest options? Those would not be viable editorial questions. Can you think of why not? One of the things that I want you to realize about those questions is that those are fact-based questions. There's a right or a wrong answer to those questions. Those are more research questions, and they're more about information than they are about persuasion and trying to convince someone of something. So those would not work for an editorial focus. So what kinds of questions do work? Well, you want to first of all come up with a question that has more than one reasonable answer, that people could look at it from different perspectives, and reasonably they could argue that one solution or one response is right, and they could have different opinions on that, and they could both feasibly back it up with some evidence and some support. Another thing you want to think about is a question for an editorial often begins with the word should, and you can see that if you go back and look at the questions I came up with. Should parents be required to take nutrition courses? Should our school be selling junk food at all? These are going to give you a start on what's a controversial question for an editorial. And lastly, the kinds of questions that will work focus on a specific issue inside a larger topic. So you want things that have more than one reasonable answer. Usually these questions begin with the word should, and they focus on a specific issue inside of a larger topic. So here's what I want you to